Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Paper Talk. We are so happy that you're here with us today. One thing I want to talk about, and this is something that I feel like we haven't revisited in quite a while, especially with Sarah coming on board, is talking a little bit about our paper flower journey with you. And we want to deep dive a little bit more and take a page out of our Paper to Profit, the Mastermind, where we talk about our vision, our 5-year goal, but really it takes you back to where we first got started. And I like to work this in a timeline. And Sarah, of all three of us, you've been as a paper artist or an entrepreneur the longest of all of us. Tell us your story, because I know you started out and studied to be a musician. And you guys, she's amazing. If you haven't watched her stories on her teaching her son and playing with her son when he's doing his music lessons, it's just so wonderful. So Sarah, tell us your story.
Yeah, that's the only time I practice now. I can't believe it because that was like my life. I studied music. I did violin not all my life. I was actually a late starter compared to like the crazy musician prodigies. You know, they start from such a young age. But that was such a heavy, such a big part of my life. But you know, we all know that musicians, you know, they're not getting paid well. And so I was teaching and I was trying to get like performance gigs and stuff, but I basically started my paper crafts. I was making like cards. I was making paper flowers as one of my first things that I offered as like a side hustle and my creative outlet from music, which is weird because that's like something creative, but like my creative outlet from my job as a musician was making crafts. And so a lot of it really started from like card making and little like flowers that didn't have stems. It was more for like either you put it onto a card or you just put it like on your wall. And I was selling it for like maybe $1 per flower. That's where I started. And it was just off of like Facebook, like my friends or like people that I knew. And I was really surprised because once I officially opened like my website where you can make online purchases, people from random like would buy them. And I was like, what? They don't even know me and they bought something. It was really interesting to see how it started. It was just like word of mouth. There was no Instagram at that time. So I started.
How about Etsy?
Was there Etsy? I don't know, but I didn't start on Etsy, which is weird because a lot of people did start on Etsy. I should have started there actually because Etsy is a pretty good platform to be on to start with because that's where they give you, like marketing and it drives, you know, SEO to your page, right? But I started just like randomly and I got really lucky because I had like a really good friend where he was wanting to be a web designer and he just made me a website. So that's why I decided not to go on Etsy and just make my own website. I think blogging was really huge then. So instead of Instagram, it was like blogging. And then I just randomly got featured on random blogs that had a pretty good following. And that's how it really drove like traffic to my website initially. And that's kind of how it all started. But I transitioned into wedding accessories because I felt like, I don't know, I was selling my cards for $1. And at that time in 2010, I don't think cards were that expensive, like at Target or, you know, online. I don't think maybe it was $1. I don't know. But I was like, I put so much work into my card and I'm making $1. It doesn't make sense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely, you know, it was just like a side, like creative outlet. Like I said, it was a hobby. I wasn't thinking of making money out of it because I had a real job as a music teacher. So I wasn't, you know, yeah. But it wasn't until actually like, I think I just got to know the right people at the right time, which is so important. Networking as an introvert is like impossible because I am not good at that. But to meet people is what made, I feel like, Handmade by Sara Kim right now, because I was just meeting the right people at the right time. I did go out and intern for a wedding blog. I also went to like random like get-togethers that were entrepreneur like get-togethers. And I just put myself out there. I was really awkward. I didn't say hi or anything, but I went. And that's kind of how it, you know, like the right people kind of met me and just put me into random opportunities.
Why did you focus on weddings?
Because that was where the money was at initially. That's what I thought. Yeah. So I did feel like weddings it's actually a good place to start for, you know, small business, like new small businesses. But I feel like, well, and at that time, my life stage was, I was about to get married. So It just
Right.
felt natural.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think a
Sure.
lot of people that make paper flowers, it's like that, right? They make
Yeah.
it for their weddings. Isn't
Mhm.
isn't that you, like
Yes.
Jessie?
And when did you get into anthropology? Because you were a seller on there.
Yeah. And that was actually on Instagram. So when Instagram finally became a thing, I actually don't really know what year Instagram was born. I feel like it might have been maybe 2010, but I didn't join right in, right? It wasn't like a thing for a while. It
Yeah.
was just on Facebook. So I remember I focused heavily on like my Facebook business page. And I felt like that was like the official thing. Like if it's Facebook official, that makes me feel aged. But yeah, once I got on Instagram, I actually tagged anthropology on some random like dress that I bought for my engagement shoot for myself. And then I put like a little accessory on the dress and I tagged them. And that's literally how I got discovered by their buyer on Instagram, literally.
That's so
Yay.
cool.
Yeah. And I still, till this day, I tell people that's why you got to tag the right people and make content for your product, because it's not even just getting paid content, but it's also you get discovered by different opportunities
Mhm.
just through Instagram.
Yeah.
But so that's kind of how I got into Anthropology's wedding line. And actually, my paper flowers were one of the things that they wanted to sell. So that kind of brought me like back to the paper flowers. Like I was doing just wedding accessories for a little bit, but I came back to the paper flowers because they were like, we want to do a paper flower bridal proposal, like bridal party proposal cards. So it's like, will you be my maid of honor? And it was like a little
Aw.
flower. It's really cute. And they came up with the concept, but I totally ran with it because no one else was doing it. And and I offered that through them. So they had a whole collection of them. I was selling like thousands at a time. And that was like my first wholesale thing that had to do with paper flowers. And it wasn't until like 2020, actually, when I decided to let go of my wedding line and I'm back with just paper flowers.
Mhm.
And I think I came back to it because of my why. And my why is the idea of making something out of paper is what genuinely brings me joy. I was in the wedding industry because I felt like I can charge an arm and a leg for a wedding thing. Whereas paper flowers, I think for the longest time, I was like, I can't charge a lot for paper flowers. So it was a long process. And I don't even know actually how I came around to thinking, oh, I can charge a lot for my paper flower now. But I think it
Yes.
was like the years of,
Yeah.
And I think I do have a little bit of like a safety net with my husband, now that I'm married. I do feel like maybe that's why I feel like, oh, whatever, I'm more confident in pricing my price. But it's also, obviously years of trial and error where when I first started with my dollar flower, I think it only had like 12 petals. I mean, now, like, if we're going to be making a peony, you're going to be making so many petals, right?
Yes.
So, and of course, like when I first started, it didn't look like a peony. It just looked like a crafty paper flower. I mean, not that that's like bad. I'm still very proud of that flower, but it was literally the idea that like I can make something out of paper. And that was like, I don't know, that brings me joy even till this day. I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Like literally a piece of paper and I can make this out of it. I feel like, I don't know. And like, actually, one of my cutest little things that like, till this day, like, it's like my inspiration. My husband told me there was like a paper artist or maybe like a paper engineer that NASA paid them to like create something that they could like fold and put into space. So he was like, one day, like you'll be one of those paper artists that like can, go to space, basically. I don't even know if he went to space, but like whatever he made went to space.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like that is crazy, right? Like something that seems so silly as like paper, it can be so meaningful. Yeah. And so that's my why. And that's why I'm back in paper flowers. Yeah. And I love it.
I love it too. Oh my gosh. And speaking, like Sarah talks about meeting and networking with people. She was the one that reached out to me when she came to Seattle and says, hey,
I
Quynh.
did that.
Yeah. I absolutely love getting to know Sarah over the past couple years. She has really pushed me to do a lot more techie stuff, even though I try to be on top of tech stuff, but she just
You're the
takes it
one
to
who
another
makes me
level.
do tech.
But she actually uses it on a day-to-day. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to be a YouTube star. And she started out with 0. And look at where she's now.
Yeah.
Like almost 100,000 followers on YouTube. It's crazy,
Not
you
yet,
guys.
not yet.
But getting there, by the time this episode loads out, it will be. But it's amazing just to be surrounded by Jessie and Sara. It pushes me. It really does. I mean, in a very non-competitive way, it's very friendly. And I love the fact that I 100% trust Jessie and Sara on everything. I will message them. I will talk to them. And I'm so fortunate to be able to talk to them every single week as we do Paper Talk podcast, because at the beginning, you don't jump right into doing a recording. You catch up. You say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. Hey, this is the problem I'm having. Can I borrow your brain for a moment and do a brain dump? That's why you go and network. And I have to say, Jessie did the exact same thing and reach out to me when she came to Seattle. And look at the lifelong friendship that we've gotten. And it's been really amazing. This is what we want for you guys. When you meet people that do the same thing that you're doing, going through the same problem you're doing, and be your bounce board, it's just an amazing, magical thing. And to be honest, I wouldn't do Paper to Profit with anybody else except Sara and Jessie, to be honest.
Oh,
It's been really amazing. And also, of course, the podcast. Wouldn't do it with anybody else. It's going to be a lifetime of doing this podcast. Hopefully, I know it'll change and we'll see where it takes us. But at the moment, it's just been really fun. And to see where our industry is going, it's been really magical. Who knew when I started 10 years ago, this is where it would take me. Having a book, having a piece in a museum, you guys. I'm in the Cleveland Museum of Art.
I saw that. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was really beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I really felt proud of myself. There was a moment as the glass came down on the vase of my paper flower. It struck me because, you know, when you're doing the job, you're putting the flowers, you really focus on making it look as beautiful as possible. You don't think of the outside of that. And then as the glass came down on flower and it looked, I was talking to Alicia and she said, it looks really professional. I was like, you're right, it does.
Of course.
But it's just like when you're so into it on the day to day, you don't think much of it. And I really felt so much emotion, like happiness, joy, disbelief, amazement. It just like in a rush of emotion, I was like, oh my gosh, my flowers are in a museum. It's just like, what? And it was just, and being surrounded by the museum staff and them congratulating me. It just finally hit me. And then I was so fortunate. I actually had a group of people the next day where the curator came out too, and they talked to a group of people about my paper flowers. And we got to talk about the behind the scene, what the vase was. This vase is a 17th century Delftware flower pyramid vase. And it's in amazing condition. They did have to refix, and they talked about little things like they had to refix the top part because it had broken off. And they talked about how their conservatory people were able to match it because the vase is actually not porcelain. It's actually earthenware. And it's so beautiful. And the interesting thing that I'll share with you guys is I'm really short. I'm only 5 feet tall. The pyramid is about 36 inches on top of another platform that's really tall. So I couldn't see inside the hole, but they took a picture to see what the hole looked like. And it's not a hole. It's like this squiggly thin line that you kind of have to like maneuver the stem into. And it's not a cavern. And it's actually several different layers of flowers, vases. So each container, back when it was made, you would have to take the pyramid apart, put water into it, and then fill it with water, put your flowers in. And it was not actually a tube vase, as a lot of people call it. And the curator told me about it. It was actually meant for all flowers. And people would put it as a pair in front of the fireplace. And it was just like, when you think about the lions that people see at the front of the gate, it's kind of that same way, but inside the house. But that was like really amazing. And it was just overwhelming for me. And I'm still flying high on this.
Aw. Tell us about how you got started. I mean, where did the journey begin?
Okay. How did I get started? As everybody know, I'm a number person. I love analytics. I love organizing things. And at that particular time, I was working for another company planning corporate tech convention. And my friends knew that I could organize things really well. So they asked me, hey, can you help me with my wedding? And so one of the brides, she asked for paper flowers. And she and her husband, she's an amazing person. So she is actually an accountant who also turned into a CPA lawyer. Her husband is a sound engineer, but they're very passionate about music, and they wanted music sheets incorporated into their events and decorations. But they also graduated from the University of Washington, and the university color is purple. So we actually had purple flowers, but she really loved crafty things. And she's like, can you make paper flowers? At the time, I have never made a paper flower ever. Maybe I did some origami for paper cranes and things like that, but nothing on the paper flower origami scales. And so I did it. It was great. We had a great photographer. The funny thing is people started reaching out to me and saying, hey, can you do paper flowers for my trade show? And right off the bat, it was like commercial work, which was like, to be honest, that's where the money is, because they have a budget in mind. They know what they want. You don't have to like be wishy-washy or to kind of figure out what needs to happen. It was a great beginning for me to get into that. And I was like, you can actually make money doing a fun thing. I was like, this is cool. And so I started getting more jobs. And as people learn that I was doing paper flowers, they started reaching out to me. And I was like, what? This is a thing. And my husband saw how much fun I was having with it. It's like, you should give this a go. I'm so grateful for my husband, Daniel, for giving me the lead way and to do what makes you happy. You've worked so hard and do something that's going to give you some joy. And I was like, you know what? Paper flower do give me joy. And I think that is the motto that I've gone with, is that quiet moment of joy as you're working late into the night, working by yourself, cutting those perfect petals and putting it together. And then suddenly you have a beautiful flower in your hand. I think that is the most magical thing, because I never consider myself an artist ever. Because in my mind, when I think of an artist, is someone that can paint, that can draw, that could see a rose, here's a rose. And I'm like, can't do it. And so it took me a long time to get to where I can call myself an artist. And it's been a very magical journey. All the different people I got to meet, all the different projects I got to do, all the beautiful flowers I got to make. It's just built layers upon layers. And I think a big component of how I got to my business is my business background. I mean, I graduated with a marketing international degree, got a master in finance. I think that's what set me apart from other people on how I was able to build my business, is knowing my numbers, knowing the why of how I form my business, and my why. Why do I want to make it? And I think I'm the oldest of the three of us, and I'm in a different life stage and I don't have children. I think that mindset to me was a little bit different. And one thing right off the bat is when I started in the paper flower community was the community itself. And I wanted to build it because it was such a niche little group of people. And every person that I have met through the paper flower industry is so amazing. They're so warm. They're so kind. And I wanted to build this community. So my why became, how do I spread the love of paper flower? Because in my thought, if the more people that join our community, I'm going to get better supplies. I'm going to get better pricing, and I can get more jobs, because the more people that want paper flowers in their life, that means corporate brands will ask me to make this for theirs because they saw a market that people wanted to do it. And the crazy, amazing thing is, because paper flowers is paper, it could last through different modeling shoots throughout the whole day, doesn't wilt, doesn't like die, and you don't have to replace it. So the cost for them was more economic for corporate and brand to hire us to do those particular flowers in any colors that they wanted. And I just saw this avenue, and I just wanted to make sure that everyone's getting highlighted. And that's the one reason why we started the podcast, is to highlight all the different artists in our industry. And you guys, I'll just say, if you want to be on our podcast, reach out to us, pitch us your idea, why you think, and tell us your story. Because it's so important that everyone get a chance to tell their story, to how they became a paper artist. Because as you know, Sarah, as a musician, became a paper artist. Jessie, in a little bit, you'll hear her story, how she became a paper artist. And the funny thing is, all three of us started with paper flower weddings or wedding paper flowers, and in different ways. But it's just really magical how everyone got here. And yeah, I can't wait to hear your story, to share our love for paper flowers, because my dream one day is to have a worldwide paper flower convention. And it goes back to my beginning of organizing tech convention, because there's a lot of work in that. But that was how I built my connection with Carnitecna Rossi, Viola, Cart Finney, Rose Mill, Kai Scissors, like all these different, Aleene's Tacky Glue. Let's not forget about them because I love their glue. I use it every day when I'm making paper flowers and for other things because I love the product. And I only promote products that I really love and use every single day, as most of you know. And it's really amazing. I'm also about experimenting with other tools and supplies too. And I think that's important. And as I evolve as an artist, I want to add more color in. So meeting up with other paint companies like Stone Ground, which is a very local, very small paint company, getting to know how pigmented their paint is just absolutely amazing. And paintbrushes. I mean, there's so many paintbrushes out there that you can get at Michael's and slowly no more Joann's, which I'm really sad. But there are other people that you can buy outside of the big box and really support these creatives that are trying to support our community. So yeah, that's my big why is whatever I can do to spread the love of paper flowers. That's why I'm doing it. Yep.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. I mean, hearing where you came from and doing everything. And I always talk to my husband about the fact that, I wish I was a better networker like Quynh, because you're very similar to my husband. You guys always have a Rolodex of people that you can talk to and call up and be like, nothing's happened, nothing's changed, but also your marketing background, I think you can see that strength throughout your business as well. Because you're not always, you make, but you also think about, well, where's this going to go? How are people going to know about it? And what's the best way to tell people about it? And you're so willing to share everything you know, but that's why we love you. Right?
Yay.
It's part of your personality. That is you. That's very authentically you. And I think your business really reflects that. So,
thank you. It's been a joy to know you, Jessie and Sarah. Yeah. It's really been really amazing how you both have influenced me in the different things that I've done. And a big shout out to Warren because he's just amazing in marketing himself. And I'm I think that's why we jive together so well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Because you guys are both you both, what can I say? You both have the same philosophy in terms of giving first. You get what you give and you give first. Yes. And you guys are both very good at that. And it honestly is part of it is your personality. You're just a very giving person to begin with. But I know part of it can be learned as well. So that's what I've learned from you guys both. Yeah.
Yay. All right. Tell us your story, your beginnings.
My beginnings. So you might know, I've talked about this in the past. I am a lawyer. I still am. I'm not practicing, but for a while I had my own family law practice. So I did a lot of divorces and separations. That's what I did. And, I was a good lawyer. And I still consider myself, I was a good lawyer. But a couple things came up in my life that sort of made me look at my life a little bit differently. So changed my perspective of what I wanted in my life and what my why is, not just in terms of what I'm doing, but, why am I here? I'm not religious, so that might be a reason why too, where I'm more soul searching in that way. But what had happened was essentially my grandma died and then my aunt died within 4 months of each other. And my grandma's death didn't hit me as bad because she had dementia and, she really wasn't herself. But my aunt, I had traveled with her. I'm the oldest niece or nephew that she had. So we did a lot of things together. I remember in grade school, I wrote an essay about who I admired, and she was the one who I admired because she had changed her career actually. In Hong Kong, she was an immigration officer. It's a very high position, good pension and everything. And in her mid-40s, she decided she was going to quit her job, go to the UK, fulfill her dream of becoming a psychologist. And that's what she did for the next, 15 years. And so I really connected with her in some ways in that aspect of being ambitious about life and ambitious about what I wanted to give back, which is one of the reasons why I became a lawyer. But when she died, I was preparing for trial. We were in court. I was preparing for trial. It was during the holidays. And I remember thinking, oh my God, my world has stopped. Everyone else has just kept on going. You literally feel like you're standing there still and the whole world's just moving without you. And I remember thinking, wow, in the grand scheme of things, what I'm doing right now, has no meaning to me. I know it has a lot of meaning to my client, but to me, my perspective is it changed completely. And I think also having witnessed her deterioration, this was her second time having breast cancer. So an interrogation over 2 years where she was in and out of the hospital. She had PSW workers come in to her house. My parents lived with her for a year and a half to help her out. Just seeing all of that, I think it really hit me. I was in my late 20s at that point. Late 20s, I was almost 30. But I think it really hit me that I was like, wow, life is like really short and fragile. And you could be the most independent person in the world. And yet, life really grips you and takes that all away at the end of your life. But it made me ultimately more appreciative, I think, of what I had, but also appreciative of the cycle of life in general. Because as bad as it sounds, when she did pass, there was a relief of some sort. It felt, yeah, especially for my parents. I think they were so stressed for the last 2 years that they were helping her out. And there was literally like a collective sigh of relief that, wow, like this is over. You know what I mean? Because she was suffering so much at the end. She was in a hospice at the end, but it was just, and even her, telling her, because she was not lucid for several hours, just telling her, it's okay. It's time to let go. But that kind of, that witnessing that and that cycle of that death happening, and that there could be, life could go on after that. I think it brought a new perspective to me. And then obviously I was getting married the following year. And at that time I was like, I need to occupy myself at the end of the day when I come home from work. Like, what am I going to do? Because I was living alone at the time. And so I decided, I got to do something and make something with my hands. And that goes back to, because like all my life I've been crafty and artistic, and I actually had gone to university to study graphic design. And so that's always been my kind of place that I go back to when I wanted time away from thinking about something or stress. I would do something. I would create something, make something, draw, paint, whatever it is. So I ended up telling myself, you know what, I'm just going to make paper flowers for my wedding. It was in 10 months. I'm going to make all my bouquets, all my centerpieces. I'm going to do that and occupy myself when I get home, so that not that I don't want to think about it, but it's hard to kind of sit alone at home, and having to grieve alone. So that was the first time I made paper flowers. And thank God for Pinterest, and thank God for you guys, because you guys were already making paper flowers and I could see people making paper flowers and all these beautiful things, and that it was possible to make paper flowers. And so, I started making paper flowers and had them for my wedding. And I literally think it saved me for that year. It was really good therapy. It really was, to be able to, like you said, be still and focus your mind on creating something beautiful. And at the time, I didn't realize that was what I was doing. You just kind of do what you do because it feels good. Right? It's not until you look back that you're like, oh, that explains why I was so drawn to making beautiful things, because I felt like I wanted to express myself in that way where I could make something beautiful and hopeful as well. So anyways, that runs into what I'm doing now. Essentially is, my why really is to create beauty and hope, I guess. And part of it relates to that life cycle. As I started having children, it started being really obvious to me that after, 30 years of just doing corporate stuff and being in school and thinking, oh, what's next? And thinking literally about myself all the time, seeing life through their eyes was also a turning point for me, I guess, as well, in terms of going back to being a child and finding everything really cool and awesome and new, and finding wonder again in this world where we're literally stopping and smelling the roses as opposed to walking right past. And so that in itself has kind of weaved into my work as well. And that part of it is my why as well, because without curiosity, I find that the world's not as hopeful. The world's not as interesting without being curious about things.
Yeah. And stopping and pausing to enjoy.
Yeah, exactly.
All three of us talked about going on walks, and we're like stopping and looking at every single foliage and flower and things that are around us.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people forget about that. Just take a moment to absorb what nature has to offer.
Yes.
I almost think that comes with maturity, because I feel like when you grow older, I do think you appreciate that moment. Whereas when you're younger, you're like, oh, just hustle, right? And I
you're willing to do
like
more.
You realize what is important is to
Yeah. Essentially, that's one of the reasons why I decided I needed a change from my job. So when I found out I was pregnant with my first son, around that time, I had that discussion with my husband. Thank goodness I had, my husband was so supportive because he didn't like that I came home with my work on my face. Literally, because it's hard, right? I mean, some people literally drop everything and be their happy selves. But for me, I'm the type that takes work home and it's in my mind and dealing with, obviously on a daily basis, stories of, that are kind of sorrowful. They're sad, they're angry. There's a lot of things that I try not to have in my personal life that I was seeing in my professional life. And I wouldn't call myself jaded because that has a very negative connotation, but I definitely felt a lot of pressure and stress and sadness from my work.
Negativity too.
It's the negativity too. Clients are not in their best behavior or in their best, emotional state when you're dealing with them. Totally understandable. And so, the negativity did get to me. And so I really did, after gaining perspective from my aunt's death, I really did reevaluate, like, what are my priorities? Like, what am I here for? Life is so short. My aunt just died and I just got married and now I'm having a child. What do I want my kids to see in me as they're growing up? Do they want to see, do I want them to see their mother not being happy with what she's doing or bringing her work home and not doing what she wants to do with her life? I would want my kids to pursue more, not on a success level necessarily or being ambitious about, let's say, what their job is, but to be true to themselves and what they want to contribute to the world and who they want to be. And so at that point, I made the decision, I needed a change anyways. I wasn't feeling particularly challenged or positive about my work. So I was either going to start off on my own and, open up my own practice or do something completely different. And it was while I was pregnant with Tristan that I started making paper flowers again. And I think like Instagram at that time wasn't huge. It was still at that time when people were like not putting their name out. They were still like, putting a brand name out because nobody really nobody was comfortable sharing their name, their true self. Yeah. So I started sharing things on social media and like you guys, I was like really lucky. People were reaching out and the paper place in downtown Toronto wanted me to teach a workshop at their location. And I was like, whoa, like I was like so honored because I was like, people actually like my work in this store, this like local retail store where I actually buy my paper. Maybe I tagged them. I don't remember, but they actually were interested in my work. And, those moments they're really important. They're really, really important, those small steps forward. But yeah, then I started teaching and then I ran into an old friend. She asked if I would make a bouquet for her friend for her wedding. And that's how I got started. Like literally from people asking because I guess I shared what I did and from weddings as well. So, it's interesting because all these opportunities do come. Quynh, as he said, all these opportunities do come. But at a certain point, you have to decide, like, is this where am I going? And I wish I had done the exercise earlier where I was looking back and saying like, okay, like, is this my why? I know that I want to create beauty. I want to create hope and build that into my practice. But is it the way to do it through just wedding bouquets or being in the wedding industry or, just doing production work? Yeah. I wish I had been more clear about it at the beginning. I think hindsight is 2020, so it's hard to say that. But at some point, I did reevaluate and I realized that I couldn't take on deadlines like I used to because of my having two young kids and one of them having had some, issues with his allergies early on. He's okay now, but when he was young, we had so many stressful moments, like near death moments. And it made me question whether or not what I was doing was what I should be doing or how I structured my business to be the way it is. And so eventually I decided that wasn't the lifestyle that I wanted. I didn't want to be living on deadlines all the time because I didn't have the flexibility with my kids. And so I reevaluated. I literally looked at my why. I'm like, why? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing it for someone else, right? Making all these things for someone else. And I went back to my why and said, the reason why I started doing this was because I wanted to express myself and not someone else's idea. And so that's when I started to offer small batched work and work that gave meaning to me and asked people if they wanted to buy it. And then that was also when I reevaluated my pricing as well. It gave me the chance to kind of look at, well, how can I price this low if I'm making less? And so it like all those things went back to why am I doing this? And if I want to do this, like how do I structure it into my business so that it aligns with the values of my life? And I couldn't have done it without looking backwards and literally defining what my why is. So, but yeah, I mean, that's my paper flower journey. And moving forward, I'm hoping to move more into more lens-based, more photography, because I've discovered that I feel like I'm not finished telling the story without photography. And so, yeah, it's interesting where our journeys go, right? We kind of discover things on the way, and it kind of makes sense when you look backwards. But without actually knowing why, I think it'd be really difficult to say yes to those any opportunities that would lead you in the right direction. So yeah, that's why we want to kind of have that discussion during the mastermind and with our groups because of how important that aspect and component has been to our own journeys.
So important. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think your why can change with life situations, as you've heard from all three of us, how things can navigate and move. And having your compass, your North Star, as people would say, it really will help make your decision making a lot easier, because if you're true to your compass, to your North Star, it will always guide you in the right direction, no matter where you go. And it'll always feel right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for listening to our paper flower stories today. It's an important part of our journey and our history that we wanted to share with you. And we hope with this little segment of us telling you our why, that you will figure out your why. And if you need a little bit more direction, come join us at Paper to Profit, the Mastermind. It's 6 weeks. It starts on May 20th. It ends on June 24th. We meet every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's online, so you can meet us anywhere in the world. We will be specifically talking about some parts, U.S. and Canadian information and background, because that's where we're situated. But really on building your client, building awareness, it can be used around the world. So if you do speak English and you feel comfortable speaking English, we recommend that you do join us, because I feel like not only the three of us, but the people in the group have a lot to offer. And I think by sharing our stories, sharing our journey, sharing our tips and advice among each of us, it's only going to elevate what you have to offer even more. So check out Paper to Profit on papertalkpodcast.com, and we will see you on May 20th. And you guys, we only have 24 spots, so it's limited. And once all the seats are filled, we will close the door. And I'm not sure when we're going to open it up again, because it took us a while, and we just revamped Paper to Profit. And I love that. I love that we're constantly evolving the information that we offer you, because being up to date and also being aware of what's going on is incredibly important to all three of us. And we want to share that information with you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.